Hi, everybody, and welcome to the October 18th session of Topical Tuesday. If you haven't signed in yet, the link is in the chat, and this is our bit.ly. We're going to be talking about Florida Power Libraries today. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Make sure your microphone is muted when you aren't speaking. We're going to get right into it. I want to welcome Kim DeFusco from Hillsborough County. She is my state co-chair for Florida Power Library, and we are so glad you're joining us today to learn about Florida Power Library, why it's important, why you need to advocate for your program, and beyond. It's really just good librarianship. And in the state of libraries the way they are right now and how we are under such scrutiny and a microscope, having these conversations with our administration can be really, really powerful. So for those of you that don't know, it started in 2008 to recognize outstanding school library programs. It gives you a cadre of school librarians who mentor others. And it's based on our Excel rubric, expectations for collaborations, collections, and connections to enhance learning. These are just some comments, some from previous Florida Power Libraries awardees. With us today are, I believe, 4 of our awardees over the years, and you'll hear from them towards the end. So this is the application process. This is Kim's baby. She has redesigned it. So I'm going to turn it over to Kim, and she can walk you through it.
Sure thing. So thank you for letting me join you today, and also we have some of our Hillsborough Library Media Specialists that will be joining to kind of double dip on this presentation. So if you see some people in the attendee list that aren't familiar names, it's probably because they're from Hillsborough. So welcome to our Hillsborough Media Specialists too. And so our Florida Power Library application process, it begins with an intent form. So you can access it at our Florida Power, flpowerlibraries.com is our website. And you'll see that there is an application tab. So I think if we go to the next slide, I'm kind of channeling my reminder of how our slideshow works. So you'll see when you, or you know what, would it be okay if I go live to the site, Lisa?
Absolutely.
Am I able to present?
You should be.
Okay. Because I think since that, here, let's present my whole screen.
And you should hear them.
All right. And so are you all seeing my screen now?
Yes, we are. We're
perfect. Good. Okay. So I think some of the dates and whatnot have been updated since the last time we did that presentation. So this is our Florida Power Libraries website, and right here you'll see a link for our application information. And so the new applicants take a look on this left-hand side, and any renewing applicants take a look on the right-hand side. The award is a 5-year award. So when someone becomes a Florida Power Library school, they are then a Florida Power Library school for 5 years. And during their 5th year, they go through a renewal phase. The renewal is not a redo of the original application, because in the original application, you're demonstrating how your school is a Florida Power Library school. And we're going to take a look at how you do that. But in the renewal experience, it's no longer about showing how your school is a Florida Power Library school. You already are. It's about showing what are some ways that your school program has grown or expanded or specialized or adapted over the years that it's been a Florida Power Library school. Because of course we know our libraries are ever evolving to meet the needs of our students and to respond to the things that are going on around us. So then for new applicants, it begins with submitting a statement of intent. So in order to complete a statement of intent, a library media specialist needs to have completed 3 full years working as a full-time certified school library media specialist. So if you're in your 3rd year right now, then you would qualify to submit a statement of intent next school year. So you need to have already finished 3 full school years of service working as a full-time certified school library media specialist. Those don't have to be at the same exact school. That's a question we get asked often. Do all 3 years have to be at the same school? No, the 3 years can be split at different schools. That is A-okay. And on the statement of intent, it is a PDF form that you complete, and then you sign it, your administrator signs it, and your supervisor of library media services signs it. And the reason for these printed signatures is to ensure that all levels at your school and at your district are aware that you're applying for this award, so that they know that they're a part of supporting you through that process. So you'll see here that you indicate the school served. So if it's all 3 years, then of course I just fill out this one. But if I'm at 3 different schools over the last, for 3 years, then I would fill those out separately. And once I have this form completed, then I can complete part 1 of the application process. So which is submitting that completed form along with a copy of your teaching certificate that shows that you have educational media specialist on your certificate, because that is another requirement. So 3 full years and educational media specialist on the certificate. Now, let's say you don't have your printout of your certificate, or, I know they email it to us now, and so maybe it's in, some saved file that is difficult to find. You can also go to the public search page. With FDOE, they have that public search page for certificates, and you can take a screenshot of the site that shows that you have educational media specialists on your certificate. That's okay as well. And all of our application pieces are in Google. So you submit using our submit part 1. You log into Google, you fill out the information that's asked for, and submit those 2 pieces. And so that is step 1, or part 1, that is needed by December 16th. So that's letting us know that you intend to apply for it during the 2023 application year. And then the next steps are we have a survey, a comprehensive digital portfolio, as well as interviews. And all of our interviews are virtual. So they used to be where we would come on campus, but our recent experiences of going virtual have made it much easier and smoother for schools to schedule those. So part 2, so let's say I'm interested, I submit my statement of intent, what next? And so the next big step happens in January. We send out links to each school that's participating of surveys. So each school gets 4 links, a teacher survey, a student survey, an administrator survey, and a parent survey. And there are different numbers of surveys that need to be completed for each. And you can see all of those details right here on the application overview. In fact, you'll notice that there's links to the application overview in lots of different places. They all link to the exact same document, but it's because we want to make sure people take a look at this application overview. The application overview is one PDF that sort of summarizes all of the information together into one page. So our surveys, you'll see 70% of your school-based faculty need to complete a survey, 10 parents, 25 students, and at least 1 administrator. And you might wonder, how will we know if 70% of your school-based faculty complete it? Well, when you submit your statement of intent, one of the questions it asks you is how many faculty are at your school. And so you self-report how many faculty. And so you want to indicate in there what is, the number of your full-time faculty. So not including staff, not including part-time, or, if you share a school counselor with another school or something like that. So you want to just report the number of your full-time faculty. And so that's how many surveys need to be completed. And along the way, we give you updates as to how many numbers have been completed, so that you know that information. So you'll see we post the dates ahead of time of like when you'll get progress reports on how many people have completed each survey for you. And at the end, the schools do not receive the feedback of the surveys. So the content of the surveys itself is are confidential. That is because, you know, when you have only 10 people filling out a survey, it might be really easy to figure out who said what kind of thing, and we want our survey completers to be able to be, you know, comfortable in knowing that they can answer how they feel most comfortable answering. So the surveys are all multiple choice. And I know on our PowerPoint, we have an example of some of the survey questions. And so when we go back to the PowerPoint, or when we go back to the Google Slides, we'll be able to take a look at some of those examples. And so at the end of this window, so January 3rd to February 10th, you get a final report and you're notified if all of you've met the numbers for each survey completion. And then the next big step is the comprehensive digital portfolio. So our digital portfolios are about sharing evidentiary pieces that show how your school and your library program align with that Excel rubric. And then let's go back to the Google Slides to take a look at the
while I'm sharing, that even if you're new to this profession, going through that Excel rubric is really going to help you build a quality program. You may not be ready to apply for Florida Power Library, but you can use it to help build a really strong program.
And that was the idea. On the FDOE website, FDOE even has some examples of like a reflective rubric on how to use this rubric as a reflective tool beyond, you know, an evaluative or an award-based tool. So you'll see in the FPLS surveys, this is an example of a couple of the questions that are on the FPLS survey. This is the one for parents, and it's really just asking the users of the library about their experience, about what is their knowledge about their access to resources, what are their experiences in the library, and they generally rate things based on always, often, sometimes rarely, on that sort of scale. And then of course, these are weighted based on the answers. So if it's always, that weighting is 4 points, often it's 3 points, sometimes it's 2 points, and rarely is 1 point. And so that's how the ratings go for all of the questions. So at the end, in addition to meeting the numbers, like you getting 70% of faculty, so we need to have at least that many, at least 10 parents, at least 25 students. So in addition to meeting those numbers, the surveys are also scored based on what the responses are. And that contributes toward your overall score for your Florida Power Library Award. Let's go ahead to the next one. And so the next is taking a look at the digital portfolio. So with the digital portfolio, a media specialist is putting together an online portfolio in whatever format they like. So we had some that were in Canva. This last year, we had some that were, you know, Weebly's, we've had Google Sites, we've had a Genially. I'm trying to think of what all the different platforms, whatever platform you're comfortable with. Adobe Spark.
Yeah, or whatever it's called now.
Yeah. And so media specialists are creating a digital portfolio that is based on that Excel rubric using text, images, and video elements as their evidentiary pieces. And this portfolio is due April 15th of each year. So we always make it just April 15th, whether if it's a Sunday, then that means technically it's the Monday after, but we always just leave it clean as mid-April, April 15th. Let's take a look. Let's head to the next slide.
All right.
So this is a look at the FPLS Excel rubric. So inside the Excel rubric, there are different sections, and then each section has a number of subcomponents. So the section that we're looking at right now is instruction, and you'll see that there's like a brief description. The library media program enhances student achievement through a systemically, collaboratively planned instructional program. And then there are components underneath that particular section. There's also a section about instructional and assessment support. There's one about the environment of the library, about program management, about advocacy, and now I know I'm missing one in my head, but then each section, each component underneath that section is that has ranked or rated descriptions. So inside the component of transliteracy skills, there is an entering, a developing level, an advancing level, and an outstanding level, much like other rubrics. When you're looking at the rubric, what you want to be looking at is that outstanding level area. So that is where our Florida Power Library schools are seeing that the abundance of their evidence is going to fall under that outstanding level. Now, that doesn't mean we've actually updated the rubric a little bit since then too, so we no longer have these little boxes, because the boxes we got feedback that it made it look and feel like they were check boxes, that you needed to check off kind of in your mind or physically all of those things. And they're not check boxes. It's about what's relevant to your library media program and how these things are represented. So that is another update that we've done to the rubric as well.
A lot more holistic than it used to be.
Yes, yep. And so now this Excel rubric is often very overwhelming. There's a whole lot of whole lot of words. It's like blocko text to the face, as many rubrics are. And so if you're going through the award program, my recommendation is actually not to begin with the rubric, but to begin with our scoring sheet. And we're in some of our slides that we have moving forward, we'll share and show what the scoring sheet looks like. And this is because the scoring sheet is what the supervisors from across the district will use when they're looking at the portfolio. So beginning with the scoring sheet, it's less overwhelming. And then the rubric is an excellent resource when you're looking at the scoring sheet and you're like, okay, what does excellence in transliteracy skills look like? What do they mean? What are they looking for? Then it's great to refer back to the rubric and take a look at what that outstanding level says about it. But that's my recommendation usually, because this rubric can be a bit overwhelming on its own.
It can, and that the score sheet really helps you lay out your portfolio, and then you're finding the evidence to fit in. It's sort of like that backwards lesson design. Mm-hmm. It will make more sense to you if you lay out your portfolio and then go back through the rubric looking for the evidence.
And so our hope is that people aren't looking through things and then going, oh, I have to do this in order to meet their requirements. So we're not looking, or the FPLS program is not looking for a specific XYZ. It is more about looking at, holistically at your program. These are things you're already doing. You're already collaborating with classroom teachers on instruction. You're already working with your administration and your students on school-wide literacy enjoyment programs. So it's about how do you celebrate and share in your portfolio how you're already doing all of those things. And so in your portfolio, you can use, so I know the dates on this particular one are off, but you can use things dating back from January of 2022. So we're in the 2022-2023 school year. So you can reach back to evidentiary pieces back to January of 2022, and then use evidentiary pieces all the way through April of 2023. So if you're working on it now and you're like, oh, in the spring, this past spring, I did this program, I've got some pictures from it, I can use that. Absolutely, you can. Or let's say you're not interested in going for Florida Power Library School this year, but you're thinking about doing it next school year in the 2024 award year, then you could begin collecting evidentiary pieces starting in this January, because you can always reach back into the January. So you have about a year and a half worth of evidentiary pieces that you can utilize. All right, so this is a look at the scoring form. So, and this is what I meant by, the scoring form is a little more straightforward. So we're looking at, again, that section instruction. And then right underneath it, the component 1A says standards-based information literacy lessons using inquiry-based approaches embedded into school-wide instructional program. And so this is a point value of 2 points. So inside the portfolio, those portfolio scorers are looking for instruction, and they're looking for instruction as it relates to, 1A and standards-based literacy lessons, and how those are embedded through the school-wide instructional program. Now, one might say, okay, well, how do I demonstrate that? Like, that sounds like a lot that I need to provide. How do I show that, something is embedded throughout the program? And there's a lot of ways to do it that don't include, 500 lessons. So if you've done 500 lessons, that's amazing, but you don't have to put them all in there. You could use an example of like one lesson and then a calendar or the planning resource that you utilize to demonstrate, how, maybe I'm working with second grade this month and third grade another month, or different weeks or different times of the year. So you don't have to throw everything into the portfolio. You could use like one lesson plan and then another resource that shows the ways that it's embedded, or a planning tool you use with teachers. So our scorers, so all of the scorers are library media supervisors from across the state. They are cheering for you. They're excited to be a part of your scoring experience. They are, like I said, they're like wanting to get you every point that they can get you, and wanting to make sure that your program is highlighted and demonstrates through the portfolio all of the things that you're doing that are great. And they are library media supervisors. So these are folks that are working in library media centers every day. So they're not foreign to the idea of what these things look like in a library media program. So what they're doing as they go through, so they're scoring after you submit your portfolio. At least two supervisors work together, and we usually meet virtually, and we look at your portfolio along with the scoring sheet and talk through the evidence. All right, let's go to the next one.
Just so you know, as you're going through the portfolio, your supervisor will not be the one that's scoring your portfolio. So we are available to help you with your portfolios. You have a question, you want a work session, you want anything, we're here and available to help you with that. And there are support sessions along the way. You are not in this by yourself. There is tons of support.
And Lisa, I'm so glad you mentioned that, because starting a couple of years ago, Lisa and I started hosting info sessions for anyone who's applying, or support sessions. And they're virtual. We schedule them in advance. They're recorded, so anybody who can't attend is able to view the recordings afterwards. And so all of the applicants who are going through the application process together, so that cadre, are able to bounce ideas off of us. We're able to give feedback. They're able to share their portfolios with other people that are going through the process for feedback on them. So you're not in it alone as you go through the process. So actually, Lisa, can we go back a few slides to where there were links to examples of portfolios? And let's take a look at, so you can, dealer's choice, whatever you would like.
I'm going to pull up Binks because she is the last one who received Florida Power Library from us. She's going to get her banner at FAME this year. This is Caroline's portfolio, and it is beautiful.
So, and congratulations, Caroline. So, and you'll notice that the way that Binks organized it is up along the top. There are the different sections of the rubric are listed to make it very easy for the scorers to find where those evidentiary pieces are. And then when we look at instruction, then these are those subcategories that were under instruction, or the components. And Caroline has organized it in such a way that we can see right up at the top what components these particular evidence are related to. So she's got evidence on components, 1, A, B, C, and D. And the portfolio scorer can go through and take a look at some overarching pieces, some specific evidence. And then what the portfolios also have are video, up to 5 minutes of video that are embedded through. So we do want video pieces included, and media specialists can use that video in whatever way they think is most useful. So you'll see there's a couple video examples here that that Binks included. We've had media specialists use video in the environment area in order to give us a narrated tour of the library. We've seen media specialists use 2 minutes of video in instruction to show an example of their instruction or student discussion during instruction, and then a couple minutes of video putting with student work, demonstrating how students connected to the work. So there's lots of different ways that people can use video in a way that works for them the best.
Right. More holistic than it used to be, right? It used to be, I don't think it was a 6-minute video you had to create yourself. Now it's snippets. And I think it's just it flows so much better.
And it's, the scorers are looking at the portfolio for about 45 minutes. So that's kind of what you want to keep in mind too, that a scorer will be looking at this portfolio for about 45 minutes. So we also don't want to overwhelm them with so much information. When there's pictures, giving them context about what the picture is, or when there's documents, giving them context of what the documents are. So like if I'm in resource management and I'm thinking about collection development, if I provide them with an order, let's say I've attached an order from Follett, that's great, but as a reader of that portfolio, I may not understand what that order means. Like, how did you put together that order? Maybe you utilize student input and teacher input, but I don't get that from the order. Having these text pieces that help give context about how things were prioritized or how decisions were made in curating those things are so valuable to the scorer. Just so data pieces, pictures, documents, but then also that contextual information. So long gone is the essay. There used to be an essay that was a part of the portfolio, so there's no essay portion anymore. We ask that everything be more about providing context to the scorers and really creating that comprehensive digital portfolio.
So,
go ahead, sorry.
I was going to ask our FPLS winners to unmute their mics and talk about their experiences. So David, I know Tony is here. I saw Tempe here, and Caroline, I'm not sure if you're here or not. Up she is. So go ahead and talk about what the process was like for you.
It wasn't as bad as I thought because I document everything on my phone. I take pictures all the time about everything that we do, and I tweet as much as I can. But even for those who aren't on Twitter, just start taking pictures. That's the first step. So you have all the documentation. And I started with the, like you said, Lisa, with the end of the, not the rubric, the scoring sheets.
Yeah.
That's how I organized the website. And then I'd go through my photos and I would take sticky notes and put notes and then put it into the different sections of the scoring sheets. But it wasn't until I saw the photo. I mean, we do so much, you forget, and then but you have documentation to remind you
Right.
what that we all do all day. So that worked really well for me. And even talking to my colleagues was a good thing because you just forget that you help this teacher, you help that grade level. It's just part of what we do. It's innate within us. So collaborating with the staff was also fabulous. But definitely my biggest recommendation is start documenting with the photos.
I completely agree with Caroline. That is a huge thing. And even if you have a clerk or somebody who can take pictures while you're teaching, that's very helpful as well. I was back in the old school days when I had to do the portfolio in a notebook. My 5 years are up this year, so I am now reapplying. So I am putting that all together today. I was working on that today. So I do think that, as if you see something and it you think, oh my gosh, that might be good for FPL or something like that, put it in a folder. Make a sticky note, have a folder, and just kind of start organizing. And then once you start getting a lot of information, you just kind of start categorizing. And I think it's just like almost a systematic approach. It's not hard, but it does take time. So you don't want to leave it to the last minute either. And also utilize your supervisors because they are so good at helping you figure out if you're like, I've been doing this for 10 years and I don't know what this means. You do. It's just in verbiage that you're not used to saying. So utilize your supervisors because they are essential in helping you achieve this goal. And you can do it. And it's very, very, very worthwhile. It really defines your program and gives you a lot of self-reflection.
Does. I think it gives you a chance to meet with your administration and really talk about what you do. I mean, remembering that our administrators really have no idea what we do day in and day out. This is really going to help them reflect on all the work that you do.
My biggest takeaway from all this was looking critically at my own program and where my own weaknesses were. Because I just thought my program was fabulous until I had to critique it myself. And then I realized there were a lot of areas that I could improve and things that I was kind of skimming over and not really taking care of. So I think it made me a better media specialist by going through this process. It made me more thorough and complete. And now my program's better than it was last year.
I love hearing that. David, I see you're still on. Would you like to share what it was like when you went through?
Mine was old school way though, with the binders, and I did have to have a lot of documentation. That's how it was done long ago. By the way, kudos to Carolyn. It's absolutely beautiful. And I do agree, it's a much easier process because then you just start sliding in the things that you do on an everyday basis. I wish I was Carolyn sometimes because she takes a photograph of everything and tweets everything. I know I do half of the things that everybody does, but it's like I forget to take the photo because I'm the one running it, or I'm the one who, it's just, and I agree when you said to have a clerk do it, if you have a clerk, or have somebody try to, even if you hand it to a kid and tell the kid to take a photo, because I'm realizing that, like I do have a clerk, but she's not always here. So it's like I have to literally constantly be on top of what I'm doing. And then it doesn't hurt to backtrack and ask people, hey, did you take a picture at that event? Did you take a picture at that event? And just start collecting it. And like they said about the sticky notes and laying it out, because I'm indirectly starting to gather information to try to attempt to do it again. And it's really not that hard. I mean, I already made the Google site. I just have to slide everything in.
Well, that's exactly it, right? It's a reflection on your program. I just did this for my master's. It was a culminating portfolio. And I was going back and looking through all the things I did. I was amazed by the work I've done over the past 3.5 years. And for you guys, you'll be amazed at what you've done for the last year and a half. And the truth of the matter is 99.9% of us are doing everything in Florida Power Library. You're just not documenting it. We need to show Palm Beach County and the state how good our media specialists are. There's been so much critique of our media specialists that isn't deserved. And I would love to be able to hold up more and more programs from this district as models for the state, because we have excellent media specialists. Hillsborough has excellent media specialists, right? You have strong support at the district level. You have strong support at the state level. And we would really love you to document that and do that and celebrate the amazing things you're doing. But Kim, do you have any closing comments?
I turned my camera on, but forgot to put my mic back on. I think just so the very last piece is are the interviews. So what your scorers will do in those interviews. So after they scored the portfolio and they do temporary scores in the portfolio, they likely have some questions. And so those questions may be that perhaps some of the evidence in some of the components didn't fully round out their understanding of your program in that area, or perhaps there was some evidence that maybe wasn't there. That component was missed or overlooked. And so your scorers will write some questions. The interviews themselves are not scored. The point of the interview is you can give a tour of the library and share more about your environment during that interview because it's virtual. But it's also for them to ask questions and ensure that they are accurately capturing all of the facets of your library media program on that score sheet. So if there's any questions that they have lingering after they've viewed the portfolio, they have the opportunity to get you more points based on those interview questions. And sometimes the interview questions are just us being like super nosy and excited about your program. So one of the great things about being on a scoring committee is that we get to see other programs and other libraries and see what they're doing in other parts of the county, and then bring those ideas back to our media specialists. So right. There's been more than one time that my question is like, oh my gosh, this program is so cool. I need to know more about it. I want to know more about it. So
agreed.
So sometimes those are the questions as well. They also meet with your administration, and those interviews are separate. So it's usually the principal. Sometimes it's been a team. I know Lisa, you and I did one this past year, right? No, it was with another person. And It was like 3 administrators all together that were in with us. So so it's about a 15-minute interview with the administration, about a 30-minute interview with the media specialist, and then we do our magic. So on our side, we're taking those scores, we're combining them with the scores of the surveys, and we're working with our collaborators in FDOE in order to look at those scores and make those determinations over the summer. And then we come back in the fall, and that's when schools find out. So in the fall, and then they're awarded officially and celebrated at FAME. So so we'll be celebrating Caroline at FAME, so be sure to join us.
Absolutely. I was just going to say thank you guys for staying late and for coming. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Kim, for joining. Thank you for our friends from Hillsborough. Our next Topical Tuesday session is November 1st, and we're going to be talking all things Tidal Wave and all the updates in Tidal Wave. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you guys soon.
Great seeing you. Bye.
Good to see you. Bye.
Thank you.